Hey everyone, what's happening? Jeff C here. We are live here discussing what is very important, a huge situation that is currently happening right now in the state of Virginia. I'm going to get my sound coming in here, and yeah, we're coming in loud and clear. Now, as you can see up on the screen here, I just put on a search on Google for gun control and look at the ka-ching, ka-ching. I mean, it's just all these stories that are coming down, mostly dealing with Virginia. I've been covering the gun control whole saga since 2012, and it's on like Donkey Kong. It's all around you. It's coming to your state if it hasn't already emerged or reared its ugly head. And it's pretty serious what's happening in Virginia. This is a game changer, really, because it's a complete sort of dismantling of constitutional rights of Americans. And it is going to be directly affecting so many people. So many people could be made into criminals overnight with what is being proposed. And the Democrats have, over the past few months, have taken power in Virginia, and this is what they're pushing forth. And we have this huge reaction that is coming forth, mostly from militia groups. There's a number of sheriffs that have come forth and said that they will not support this legislation if it passes through. There's several bills that are proposed that we're going to go through in detail. I'm going to show you what's going on. I'm going to give you a basic rundown, though, of basically what they're saying in what they're going to do. So this is from Northam, the governor of Virginia here, and they are trying to outlaw the gifting, loaning, or the private sale of firearms, first and foremost. They want to put a ban on modern sporting rifles, standard capacity magazines, silencers, and devices like bump stocks. They want to limit handgun purchases to only one per month. They also want to institute what we call red flag laws, which would basically give the courts power to seize people's weapons without due process, right? Just based on somebody saying that you might be dangerous or something like that. We've seen this happen in California, Florida, and many other places recently. And then also they want to pass legislation that would allow cities and other counties to pass even stricter sort of gun laws, banning of certain firearms and stuff like this. So it's a really serious, dramatic shift in the constitutional rights of Americans. We have the Second Amendment and directly in the crosshairs, the Fourth Amendment directly in the crosshairs here. It's a very serious situation, and people in Virginia are taking this very seriously. Now, looking at the headlines, you can see some of the stories that have come forth here, including one today with the FBI arrest 3 suspected neo-Nazis. This is very important because they want to portray that people that are pro Second Amendment, that are against this gun grab, are actually white supremacists. And this is all part of the narrative that they've been using for many years. So with all that being said, I want to welcome my guest here, Chris Florio. You probably remember him. He's been on Jeff C. and Friends several times. Great guy. And hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me tonight.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Now, Chris, you're in North Carolina, so you're right. You said you're like 2 hours away from this, basically.
Yeah, about 2 hours, 3 hours from Richmond, depending on traffic. And Interstate 85 is under construction half the time. So, but yeah, very close to Virginia.
Right. And are you talking with neighbors and friends, people in your own county, sort of thing, or people keeping a close eye on this? Is this something that is?
It's interesting, Jeff, because the people who are, the hardline conservatives or whatever you want to call it, that I'm friends with, some of them knew about this and some did not. And then your average person, it seems, walking down the street has no clue that this is going on, which really surprising, especially in the last few days. I've asked a lot of people, and they seem oblivious. And then I tell them what's going on. They're like, "Oh, that's the same old thing." I'm like, this thing in Virginia, what they're doing right now is not. It's a different level of ramp up of what we've seen. It's like worse than California stuff at one time, which is
Yeah,
very
they're
very odd.
probably aware of, the latest gossip with Kim Kardashian or Baby Yoda or
Yeah,
whatever, the corporate media would be
yeah.
programming them with. And that's the game that's played, is that if you are, like, say, for instance, like what I've got up on the screen here, if you were to look up gun control, you basically get the
Hmm.
Disney media version of what mostly is going on, which is a very One World sort of government type of programming of the masses, where it's, we've got a serious threat here. I don't think I need to explain to folks now. I will explain to folks now. Hopefully, I really hope that there are just people from Virginia and elsewhere that have never listened to my show before, don't know my history and stuff like that, because it would be important for you to come in and understand media manipulation first and foremost up front, that this is something we're not allowed to talk about. I mean, there's a few things that you absolutely cannot talk about, say, on this platform, YouTube. And one of them is the fakery involved in some of these events that happen. And I would suspect that this latest event here with these three suspected neo-Nazis is something that's been choreographed by the corporate media in order to kind of push that narrative. So be very skeptical of any so-called shootings that happen, unless you can be on the scene and you can absolutely corroborate whatever the corporate media is telling you. You have no way of knowing the levels of deception that are employed on a daily basis when it comes to these things. It's always a Hegelian dialectic at play. And the Hegelian dialectic is simply a transfer of power from you, the individual, your family, to the state itself, or
Yeah.
to the people that run the state, basically, in the New World Order above it. So it's very scary what's going on. And so maybe we'll start just with this, since this is like hot off the presses, Chris, and then we'll get
Yeah.
into the legislation itself.
Yes,
FBI
sir.
FBI arrests 3 alleged white supremacists. They plan to attend Virginia pro-gun rally, official says. And so the FBI arrested 3 alleged members of white supremacist group early Thursday, including 2 men accused of possessing a machine gun, over 1,000 rounds of ammunition, and body parts, according to the Justice Department. The 3 were arrested in residence in Delaware and Maryland and taken into custody without incident, said FBI spokesman Dave Fitz. The men, who the Justice Department say are members of an international white supremacist group known as The Base, were believed to be planning to attend the pro-gun rally in Virginia's capital of Richmond on Monday.
Hmm.
That is expected to draw a significant crowd of extremists. Now, just pay attention to the language, folks. All right? It's expected to draw a crowd of extremists. This is obviously the CNN. It's a very biased. This is a New World Order, a Disney media sort of outlet that doesn't want you to have guns whatsoever. And so I want to just illustrate the branding of the people. And this is done through the movies. It's done through the television shows. In fact, one of the shows that people might want to pay attention to, I only watched the first episode, is the current HBO, the Watchmen. Chris, have you seen any of that?
You know, Jeff, I watch so little TV. I will admit, I did watch the Baby Yoda stuff with the Mandalorian, but that's it. Like,
Yeah.
I haven't.
So at least you're up to date on that.
I mean, I like Star Wars. I'm sorry, that's about it, though.
Oh, that's okay. So do I. So we can all be forgiven for that. I like the old Star Wars at least. But
yes.
Okay, so let's just mention this for a second here. They've been charged with multiple firearms and immigration-related offenses. Now, one of them is apparently from Canada, and are expected to make an initial appearance in Maryland federal court Thursday. Now, Brian Mark Lemley Jr., who is 33, this is the way that they code these stories, is accused of transporting a machine gun as well as transporting a firearm and ammunition with intent to commit a felony. Lemley and William Garfield Bilbrough the fourth, who's 19, are also accused of transporting and harboring an alien. Isn't that interesting? They actually refer to
A Canadian as an alien.
When do, I mean when it's Mexicans or something like that, it's a wonderful, amazing, what do they call them?
Migrants.
No, not even migrant. It's asylum seekers.
Asylum seekers, yes. Mhm.
Right, but now it's harboring an alien.
Refugees.
Yeah, so this is the Canadian 27-year-old Patrick Jordan Matthews, a Canadian citizen and former combat engineer in the Canadian Army Reserve.
Mhm.
So I'm very suspicious about this story, folks. It sounds to me like we have more media concoctions here in order to paint a sort of picture to depict these people who would be attending this demonstration as quote unquote extremists, right? Because they're white supremacist, and this is the narrative. So what you got to understand, when we mentioned before, hey Chris, did you see this? And when I didn't elaborate on the Watchmen, but I only saw the first episode. And I just should elaborate on this for a second, which opened up with the Tulsa riots. So going back into American history, showing white supremacist sort of violent action against blacks. And it was basically depicting an alternative timeline of the United States, present day United States, in which the greatest threat is white extremists, white supremacists who have access to massive amounts of firearms, and the police have largely been disarmed. And it's quite something, because this is how your media works. Who controls your media controls your mind, unless, of course, you are a critical thinker and you understand who is controlling your media and what their objectives are. You are under their programming. So pay attention when you put on your television, your telly, whatever. I mean, nobody should be watching television. Chris has got it right. I hardly watch any I don't watch any television. I mean, I watch the sports, maybe the odd hockey game sort of thing, and I usually stream that. I don't even have a television, so but I get stuff off the internet. So what we have to be careful is the narrative that they're setting out, and the potential that something could go down at this event. And they keep mentioning Charlottesville, right?
Yes,
And
they do. I was hoping you'd bring that up.
Yeah,
they've mentioned it multiple times in the last 24 hours, actually.
Yeah, they've mentioned it several times. Charlottesville. Now, I covered that massively in the battles of Berkeley and all these events that have led up to this, the divide, the left, right, the extremists on either sides being pushed against each other, the combat, all the historical sort of statues being pulled down, the white privilege that you see everywhere. All setting up a narrative for this, the Charlottesville event with the car that rammed into the crowd of people, which was, in my opinion, highly orchestrated. And
am I allowed to say that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll try to say what we can, but without being so, direct about it. But the Tiki Torch sort of
photo shoot. That was a photo shoot.
Yeah, the photo shoot. So pay attention to the hairdos, the lighting, who's filming what, right? If you're watching this and you see CNN and then you see all the white supremacists with the Hitler hairdos holding the tiki torches, that's all made for Hollywood. That's the same as watching The Watchmen on TV. It's about as real. That's the way I would approach it. I say it's about as real as The Watchmen. Is The Watchmen real? No, it's fantasy. It's television, but it's your programming. So it's all working to program your mind into thinking white people bad, white people with guns much worse. Right. In many ways, right? And of course, Virginia has that Southern, because that's, if you go back to the Civil War, Virginia was one of the most pivotal states to align itself with the South, sort of thing. So this is a very
Richmond was the capital of the Confederate States of
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So this goes back in, and then you see Canadian illegally entered U.S. in August. Right. And yet they waited till today, allegedly, to arrest him. And they've got so Canada, just in case you're listening, Canada's doing the same thing. Right. Canada has all these shootings in places like Toronto and Montreal as well. And then the mayor of Toronto recently, last year, came out, said we need to ban handguns. the Montreal City Council chimed in and said we need to ban handguns, not just ban them, but ban them nationwide. So we have legislative bodies, municipal governments that are calling for highly unconstitutional sort of encroachment of the government on our constitutional rights here in Canada, in which we also have a very similar amount of gun ownership here, where except that our rate of violent sort of firearm crime is quite a bit lower. So we're almost a model of people, law-abiding citizens who rarely ever kill anyone, sort of thing, and yet there's millions and millions of guns, and they want to make it all but impossible for you to have access to a gun, and they keep trying to come up with more and more legislation to the same type of things where it's background checks for the government and all this stuff. So I think, maybe at this point, Chris, should we get into the actual legislation itself? Do you want to or do you want to go somewhere else?
And I'd like to but I'd like to start just slightly before that, and just a little bit more background on what's occurred. So basically, Virginia had the election this past November, and the Democrats took control of all three things now: the Senate, the House, and they've had the governor. And that guy, you could spend a whole show just talking about that guy, Northam, who's clearly one of these puppetized, controlled entities for sure. Anyway, or I guess I'm not supposed to say that, but whatever.
No, you guys, no, absolutely, for sure.
So I sent you a link of a video. You might not be able to show it, but it was basically this guy talking about the FF word, where, every war that's occurred has been a not that one.
Oh yeah, the one.
It was the first one.
Yeah, okay.
It was.
Hang on a second here.
I can send you the link. And I just want to relate it to this. It's a very short video, and you've seen it before for sure.
Oh yeah. CFR type stuff.
It's
basically.
the CFR. It's the guy talking to the CFR. Basically, I'll just ruin it. He at the end he relates the Civil War starting.
Send me the link. I'll play it for folks.
All right, that sounds great.
Yeah,
here we go.
People should see this.
It's in the private chat of this.
I got it.
Program. Okay,
so we're gonna play this for folks here.
It's very short.
Yeah, it's just basically somebody in.
There's a point though for me.
American administration here. Who is saying that how does America traditionally get into wars, and then he mentions
look at the title of it too.
Yeah.
What kind of lobbyist he is.
Yeah. So CFR, lobbying for perhaps foreign interest.
Yeah. If you see the title there, right?
Yeah, people we're not allowed to talk about,
right.
And basically. Yeah, so I'm going to play this here. It's only about 2 minutes long, and we'll listen into it because this.
I appreciate that.
All right, here we go.
I frankly think that crisis initiation is really tough, and it's very hard for me to see how the United States president can get us to war with Iran, which leads me to conclude that if, in fact, compromise is not coming, that the traditional way of America gets to war is what would be best for U.S. interests. Some people might think that Mr. Roosevelt wanted to get us into World War II, as David mentioned. You may recall we had to wait for Pearl Harbor. Some people might think Mr. Wilson wanted to get us into World War I. You may recall he had to wait for the Lusitania episode. Some people might think that Mr. Johnson wanted to send troops to Vietnam. You may recall he had to wait for the Gulf of Tonkin episode. We didn't go to war with Spain until until the Maine exploded. And may I point out that Mr. Lincoln did not feel he could call out the Federal Army until Fort Sumter was attacked, which is why he ordered the commander at Fort Sumter to do exactly that thing, which the South Carolinians had said would cause an attack.
See, there you go. That's all we need.
I mean,
so that's what I was trying to point out.
Yeah.
So notice what he said. Like the Civil War was not really caused by a direct FF item, right? But he did something that he knew the other people would respond to.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is what's going on here. I'm not an expert in this stuff, which is why I reached out to you, Jeff, because I really respect your opinion on this kind of thing. But there's a lot of people, not me, of course, but there's people who have said, like, if you try and confiscate the guns, then that's going to be like a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very prevalent where I'm at. Not me, of course. I haven't said that. But other people, there's people out there that have said that.
Oh yeah. I see it all over YouTube. Even there's a lot of pro gun channels that are saying that if you dare, because, and this is very
put the line in the sand.
Okay, so everybody needs to know this, right? I mean, I'm sure most people that are listening know this. The Second Amendment, basically, this is shall not be infringed, right? That if the government tries to take your guns, then the government has pretty much revoked its power, and because it has become what the founding fathers and the people that wrote the amendments and the Constitution wrote it specifically to guard against, which means tyranny. So if tyranny rises up and tries to take away your rights, then you have a right to fight by any means. And this is what Chris is alluding to, is that there's a lot of people that are saying that we will not allow this to happen. We will take a stand, and maybe they're not explicitly saying that they're going to resort to using weapons to defend themselves or using any forms of violence, but the constitutional, it is in the constitutional, it isn't in the Second and Fourth Amendment that the people have the right to do this, that they have the right to stand up, and this is explicitly why it was written into the Constitution, because this is exactly what they wanted to stop. What they wanted to make sure was that no tyranny could ever take over the United States, and that the Americans would never be subjected to a tyrannical sort of state that would infringe upon all the things that make America great, sort of thing. So this could be the powder keg that really, I imagine that's why you wanted me to play this video here, because it could be that some orchestration might be in the cards go ahead.
So this isn't just like a gun ban, right? This isn't just one bill. It's almost like watching a cartoon. It's so absurd what they're suggesting. They're suggesting like 10 bills or more that are, each one of them you could talk about for 30 minutes of how absurd they are. Okay. And they're trying to do it all at once. In other words, I think they're trying to elicit a response like they want.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This is not my wheelhouse, right? You're the subject matter expert, but that's my. So I contacted you about 2 weeks ago about this because I actually was highly considering attending this thing on Monday, but it's kind of like devolved into out of control at this point. It seems like it really reeks of a trap. Like they are setting up a trap, and I'd rather not put my foot in a trap.
There was one, like,
I'd like to go
way back when there was a character named Adam Kokesh who is we'll just say dubious at best, who tried to lead an armed march onto over the the Potomac, the river there going into Washington. Potomac, that's it. And then all these people kind of registered for that, and it never happened, of course, and nor did any of us think it would. But it was an example of, in my estimation, how you can get a lot of information on people that are potential threats because of their pro Second Amendment sort of sentiments. So this is, it is worrisome because, of course, nobody, like, it's out of our control. Whatever is going to happen is likely going to happen. If hopefully, and I'm knocking on wood, hopefully nothing happens, but I mean, it seems like everything's amping up. I mean, just like today when we were corresponding, yesterday, when we were talking about doing the show, everything was amping up. It's
Yes.
amping up right now. Like, folks, this is big.
Yes.
What's going on? And this is just it's just Virginia. Illinois is also going forth. California is every day pushing more gun legislation. Florida has been massive in this. Connecticut, of course. I mean, you can go through. People say, "Oh, it's not really happening, right?" You're like, I've had this criticism before. It's like, no, since a certain school shooting, there really hasn't been any legislation. No, there's been like 24 states that have passed massive, or at least passed some form of gun control. The red flag laws too, those alone, which is again what we saw with the Elliott Rodgers bill, the AB, whatever it was, in California, which we covered way back in 2014, 2015, which again, it's like, and recently in Florida, there was the Brady bill as well. There's a bunch of these. If you look at the fine print of these types of red flag type legislation that they want to pass, it would give the government power to seize people's weapons unconstitutionally and without due process, which means that hypothetically, like what they've done in California, for instance, a neighbor or a family member could report you as being dangerous or having, maybe being,
or say like an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, ex-girlfriend. Maybe you were abusive, or making claims that you're abusive. Of course, nothing has been corroborated through the courts. You're guilty until proven innocent, kind of thing. But yeah, the red flag laws would allow the government to come and just take your weapons, basically, based just on hearsay. I mean, it just based on somebody's report. And then you would have to go and hire an attorney and go through the due process to get your weapons back. So it's such an infringement, and it's very scary because it's outright Orwellian when we think about it. And that's just one of the things that they're passing. When you look at like banning silencers, limiting, like not even having regular size magazines. I think they're limiting magazine sizes on guns to 10, say 10 rounds, right? Which is nothing, right? But a lot of these guns, because you could go, say you had just for argument's sake, you had an AR-15, which does not mean assault rifle, by the way. You had an AR-15, and it has the capacity of housing, say, a 50-round magazine. Even if you went and you changed all your magazines or you gave them to the government, your gun would still be illegal because it has the capacity. It's not even what you have. These are just some examples of the type of legislation that they're trying to pose. The granddaddy sort of, like the heirloom where you inherit a gun. Like, this is what they're trying to do. They got called, like, this is one of the things too, like people, the granddaddy sort of passing on and selling guns privately and stuff like that. People were freaking out about this because they came out and said, you're not allowed to do this anymore. And so basically all the fathers out there and mothers that have guns could not pass those guns on to their children. And then the governor, because of the fierce reaction of the people, he kind of caved a little bit, and he said, okay, guess what? We'll allow you to pass it on one time, but that's it, sort of thing. Right. I don't even know if he's quite said that, but that like they're trying to, somewhat back off on that claim. But yeah, basically they're going to they're going to make it so that, say your family has a bunch of guns, and whoever, in the family technically is the owner of the gun, say the father or something like that, or even the grandfather, if he passes away, those guns are illegal. And technically you're a criminal, you're a felonist, and you could be, facing serious time unless you bring those in instantly, sort of thing. So it's really scary when you look at it. And it's like, it's all like with the Democratic Party, right? The demon rats, as I call them. And again, don't fall for the left-right thing because that's what they want. But the Democratic Party, okay? they're going to sell it like what they do always is they bring out the sobby sort of people that allegedly have had, gun violence against them, right? Lost a child or lost a mother or father or something like that. And they come out, and then you have the politicians themselves, right? That would come out, the senators and whatever else, that would come out and they would use this guy's, and they'll say the language. The language is this: look, at the end of the day, people's rights outweigh the rights of individuals. The safety of people outweighs the safety of gun owners. And it's like, yeah, but it's not like that at all, because because
that's the cost of living in a free society.
Yeah, you're making these people way less safe by taking away their ability to defend themselves. So these people are beyond hypocritical, just on the surface level, and that's not digging below and all the shenanigans that they've been up to try to sell this. But on the surface level, they're full of crap, because they're basically saying, well, the people's rights and the people's rights to safety outweighs your rights. But what do you mean the people's rights to safety? So many of these people live in rural areas where, like, what if somebody breaks into their home? What if they're held up, or they're a number of situations, right? I mean, you have a gun, you have a chance, you can defend yourself, you can defend your family, of course, but this is what they don't want. They don't want even you to hear that type of argument. They want you to, it's an appeal to emotion always, right? When it comes to this gun control and how they work it, right? It's all about, we're going to shock you, we're going to throw all these statistics at you, we're going to convince you that guns are bad, when really most of the guns, of course, that do kill people are obtained by criminals illegally. So I mean, it doesn't,
right.
Anyways, so, where should we go now?
So where we should go now is the absurd bills that they're talking about, and it's not just gun control. So like the first one would be the SB 64.
Yeah.
Which is what you put. Great.
Yeah.
That one is paramilitary activity. So they're saying basically, like, they're trying to make it so training becomes illegal. Like, you can't get with another person because now you're like forming a militia.
Oh.
And then that's a class 5 felony if you do that.
That's nuts too, because it's in the Second Amendment they specifically mention militias, right?
Yes, of course,
as being absolutely necessary. Right?
So we'll get to that in a second, but yes. So the next one is SB 16, which is the assault weapon ban, but it's worse than that because it's basically everything semi-automatic, including handguns. So that's most of your handguns. Now you're left with revolvers and like for rifles, like bolt action, like hunting guns. That's it. So, and none of this has any grandfathering, which like the thing under Clinton, the assault weapon. Well, there was grandfathering. There's no grandfathering here. As soon as it becomes enacted or whatever, and it kicks in, if you still have it and you haven't turned it in, well, then you're now a felon. Wow. Anger management from people, let me assure you. Oh, you don't love this one, Jeff. So the next one, HB 67. Yeah, thank you. So that one is strikes by government employees. So what they're saying here is that if you're a county sheriff's deputy, or you're a city cop, and they pass this legislation, and you refuse to do the confiscation, then you are summarily dismissed, and then you cannot work again for any of these agencies. Wow. Period. The end.
Holy moly!
Yes. All right. I'm telling you, this is not your average thing. They've gone to the absurd in every level, which is what reeks of they're trying to elicit a specific response, which I mean, I can't even tell you what I really think on live.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe I'll type it.
Nuts.
There you go. Read the chat. That's what I think they're going to do, right?
Yeah.
So next, SB 22. That's kind of minor. It's
I don't have that
limit.
one here. You okay?
You might not have it, but I'll just tell you it's purchasing a handgun, limit to one per 30 days.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Control firearms. Yeah, so those are the main bills, but there's like 30 bills. Those were like the ones that I just pulled out from the thing. So there's also like rumors going around. And I sent you some links to those as well. So the first one is that there was an article that the governor is threatening to utilize the National Guard, to call up the National Guard to do the gun confiscation. Here, I'll send you that link if
I might
you
have
got it there.
I don't know here.
No, it was Washington Examiner.
Hang on a second here. I have a Washington Examiner. Gun groups. Virginia Democrats want violence to disrupt smear gun. Is this the one? Probably not. I think that's one I just Googled myself.
It's called "Yes, Virginia. The governor can really use the National Guard to enforce gun control." It's a lot of stuff, Jeff. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. No, I want to make sure that we do a comprehensive sort of. Okay, so send me the link there, and I'll.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. I'll bring it up here.
I'm sorry.
No, very good. This is it's so crucial that people understand. There we go. Yes, Virginia governor really can use the National Guard to enforce gun control. This too, because it's like,
which is crazy, right?
It's the National Guard. What?
It's the National Guard. Like, it's one thing that the cops are coming with a SWAT team, but the National Guard's basically the army. Okay, that's bad. So, so that's just on its face. I mean, there you go. Apparently, I have not looked into it, but apparently, this is what the governor has said, that he wants to do this, according to this article. All right, the next thing is another link I just sent you. The governor is reportedly ordering cuts to the electric and phone and internet during the gun confiscations.
Wow, this is nuts.
This is what I'm telling you. This is not
nuts. Oh my God! Yeah, I know. Wow! Holy cow! This guy.
So this is where the next one, Jeff. This is what I'm telling you. I think it's like shilly. It's a little shilly because you've got so many people involved in talking about this, and it's been going on since November. It may not have really come up to the Canadian side, but it's like down here. I've been looking at this stuff since the
exact
November,
same thing is happening here. It is like I've been showing this like that. So everyone, I think most people know I'm Canadian, but Canada they've been calling for an outright nationwide ban on handguns. So like you think it's bad, like they're gonna say you can only buy one a month. We won't even be able to have one. It's like it's even worse here some ways, right? But
the next thing is, this health ranger, Mike Adams, is his name, which you can say what you think about him. You get what I think about him. But he's been saying that, yes, he's like part of that, or I don't even know if he's part of that, but he's like in the same ballpark as them.
He is,
so he's been saying that the UN troops are going to be involved, and he's written articles on his website for that. I'd say don't even pull it up and give him a click. But
I've got Virginia gun grab UN troops scenario. This is one of the links you sent me here.
That is part of it too. So that guy is citing Mike Adams.
I would not. Okay, so folks, this has been something that's pushed a lot, and it has been pushed. Like I'll tell you, in the conspiracy realm since 2008. Like they bet that UN troops would be used, but this is highly unlikely. Because first and foremost, then the National Guard would have to step aside. The sheriffs themselves, the local communities, the local police forces. I mean, you could have a war situation because you would have foreign troops that would be, trying to impose. It's inevitable. Maybe eventually it gets to this point. Maybe eventually, if like some massive thing happens, sort of thing,
like on Monday.
Yeah, like that could be it. So we'll see how that plays out. But this, it is inevitably. Where is it coming from? Because like what I'll say to the good folks out there, the pro Second Amendment people that might not be familiar with my work, with the work that we've done for so many years, is don't play the left-right game. It's not leftism that is causing this. This is the United Nations. It's the banksters themselves. This is all part of their agenda. It's much higher. The left-right is a false divide that they use to just program the masses and constantly be at each other, sort of thing. This is coming from the top. This is coming from the powerful, elites that control the New World Order themselves. And this symbolism outside, of course, New York City, the headquarters of the United Nations themselves. What is the big statue they have? Well, they have a twisted gun. I think everybody knows that. I don't have to bring it up, sort of thing. But this is, and again, too, you could go back to Obama signing on. This was back around the time of a certain school shooting, I think back in 2012, where Obama had signed on to United Nations gun restriction clause that they had passed way back then.
It was a treaty.
A treaty, yeah.
But we never ratified it. So
it hasn't been ratified.
John Kerry signed it, but we never went to the Senate.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that goes to show you, it's coming from much higher sources. And then you look at all the major players like Dianne Feinstein, Rahm Emanuel, people like that, Michael Bloomberg. These are the biggest players. Not sure what they have in common. Probably not allowed to talk about that. But the biggest players in this gun grab that have been the biggest players over the past couple decades. Major players in the NWO. This comes from the NWO itself. And this is why... and I've told people this because back in 2012, when I first started covering this, a lot of people thought, well, it'll never happen in my state. Probably a lot of people from Virginia were saying things like that on some of my videos, because I was saying, no, it's going to come. It's going to come. It's going to come. It's going to come everywhere. They're going to push it everywhere. And sure enough, here we are. And it's just Virginia today, folks. What will it be tomorrow? I mean, like I already mentioned, Illinois. I mean, there's Florida. I mean, they just over and over again. Every month there seems to be something that is happening. You have the March for Our Lies. They use a bunch of children, right, to get, and just like the Extinction Rebellion, the use of children, which of course is coded in the Denver airport murals, where it's the children that do the disarmament, right? So it's very telling that it's children that are being used as a sort of political weapon, if you will, to program the masses into this. And it's very, the average person that say, we'll say suburbanite or urban sort of person in, say, Eastern United States, where the bulk of the population is. The average person doesn't have guns, lives in a suburban or urban sort of setting, puts on their mind control every day, watches CNN, watches the New World Order programming, watches all the shows, and the shows are very clever the way they do it, whether it's The Walking Dead or the aforementioned The Watchmen or whatever it might be, the Academy Award-winning movies and all that, the New York Times bestsellers. And they can weave in the whole guns are really bad narrative into all your programming, all your television, all your movies, your video games even. Just weave this in and you're programmed before long. Before long, you get teary-eyed because you put on CNN and you saw some shooting that allegedly happened at some place and some really bad acting to accompany it, but enough to convince you that, you know what, why do we have guns anyway? So people who don't have guns, and I'm someone who doesn't have guns. So if you don't have guns, you're more likely to already kind of be calling or in favor of, well, why do we need them anyways? Right? Why do we need them anyways? Well, I'll tell you why. Tyranny. It's one word, right? I mean, do you like tyranny? If you like tyranny, then be in favor of gun control, because that's what it will lead to. It will lead to a powerless people. And again, the whole Hegelian dialectic that we endlessly discuss every time I do a video, pretty much, is all about that transfer of power. And this is what you see. It's a massive transfer of power. We're moving the power from the people to the government. And, every single day this moves further and further towards in their favor. And they'll never stop. If you think that at some point, they'll be happy once they get this. No, it's just like the great example being the bump stocks or the magazine, right? The magazine capacity. Like, okay, so what is it today? It's 10. Then what is it going to be next year? It's going to be 5 rounds. I mean, do they even make 5 rounds? Magazines?
They do, because to go hunting, you have to have a 5-round magazine here.
Okay.
In
Right.
North Carolina.
Right. Eventually you'll be left with plastic spoons, and then they'll come and get those.
Well,
That's how
plastic's bad.
What's that?
Because plastic's bad.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the straws. Okay, the straws is a great example. Some turtle snorted a straw in the ocean. We have to ban straws. And they use children to do it. And it's like, we're banning straws. We're going to save the turtles, right? That's how mind control works. There's a shooting. Some children were shot. We're going to ban the guns. That's the solution. It's like, well, wait a second. There are millions and millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, over 100 million people have guns in the United States. I don't know. I mean, it's like there's more guns than there are people. And yet hardly anybody's shooting each other. Most of the people that are being shot, of course, are the criminal gangs that are doing it with illegal guns to begin with. One of the things I saw in the New York Times, too, just from yesterday, was talking about the type of guns that you can build yourself, which they hate. They put up this video, and they had one of their reporters who conveniently had a shaved head and looked like a scrawny sort of white supremacist type guy. And he showed how easy it is in the state of Virginia to order one of these do-it-yourself guns, right? Where you get all the pieces and you put it together yourself. And they can't stand this. Of course, that's part of their legislation. They want to ban these guns because they don't have serial numbers on them, and there's no background checks, basically.
Right.
So background checks themselves are highly unconstitutional, and they're directly against the Second Amendment. This is the problem that we have with the NRA. The NRA, I mean, I'm sorry to say this to folks. The NRA's New World Order, it's totally controlled, and they're playing their role in this whole sort of gun grab. And I could give you a million examples of why. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't want to get sidetracked. But at the end of the day, the NRA, in many ways, likes to boast that, hey, we're the ones that are asking for background checks. We're the ones that are calling for this, right? So be careful.
Well, and it's a waste of money, too, because in order to do the background check, then you have to go to a dealer, and then they're going to charge you. You got to do another form, and it's not free, so it takes time. It's a barrier. It's just another hoop you have to jump through.
Well, but it's also the government gets to collect all this information on you, right?
Yeah, it's bad in every way almost.
Yeah. And you're treated as a potential criminal even though you've done nothing wrong, right? And look, I say this all the time. You want to kill people, you can kill people, right? You don't need a gun to do it. In fact, an automobile or a truck is far more efficient. You can poison people. You can walk down the street with a hammer. You can kill a few people. I mean, there's a million different ways you can kill people. Guns, yeah, maybe they make it a little bit easier in some ways, but also, hey, guess what? Guns make a lot of noise too. So, you shoot off a gun, We've had it here in Montreal. We had the École Polytechnique quote unquote massacre that happened, I think, back in 1989. And out of that came this massive $2 billion sort of gun registry that was scrapped by the Harper government, the conservative government that followed, but the liberal government tried to pass this massive sort of background check sort of, and they banned a whole bunch of things at the time too as well. We had a shooting here at Dawson in which conveniently only one person was shot, but then right after the person started shooting, the police just happened to be there, just coincidentally, just on the scene, and they were the biggest heroes ever, and they saved the day, and only one person died. And these things are highly highly suspect, folks. They're very highly suspect because they're used to the nth degree to say why we need to. Danforth is being Toronto is being one of the latest examples, and this is where I talked about Mayor John Tory of Toronto calling for handguns to be banned from all cities, and then the Montreal City Council one-upping him, basically saying we got to ban handguns outright, sort of thing. So it's happening here. Well, it's already happened largely in Europe. The UK, Scotland, right?
Well, they're banning knives in the UK, right?
Yeah. Well, they're here too, right? I mean, I don't know what it's like in your neck of the woods, but you can't walk down the street with a knife. You can't.
Really?
Right? No, you can't. If you have anything more than like an inch and a half or something, you'll
I carry this in my pocket every day.
Yeah, that would be illegal. Here,
No,
that it's
not
just
here.
nuts. Unless you had
I use it every day.
yeah, well, that's it. I mean,
And it's not for stabbing people. It's for
no.
You know, it's a tool. I use it like
Exactly.
a tool
Yeah.
because it's a tool. Hello. Hey Jeff. So
yeah.
I hate to interrupt your.
No,
thought
you're not.
process.
Go ahead, please.
So here's another one that I'm telling you, it's ratcheted up. Click on this one here.
Right.
So.
All right, hang on
Wait
here.
here. Yeah. Lovely MSN, right?
Virginia. All right.
Yeah, you read it.
Go ahead.
Virginia increases correction budget in anticipation of jailing gun owners over this.
Wow.
So I'm telling you, they are trying to. This is not just the normal thing. They are. This is not like happened over 6 months. All of this in the last like 45 days, 60 days max. Okay, they're trying to elicit a response. So let's go to this URL and you'll see the response. So there is a organization, I don't know who runs it, and I'm not being facetious, I really just don't know who these people are, but it's the Virginia Civilian Defense League. Okay, so what they are up to is they are trying to get these rallies going. So they have organized a rally in every county. So if you scroll down, the top there is talking about Monday. All right, but scroll down because I want to get background information first. Keep going. Lots of keep going. There. All right, stop. So all that green, there's 90-something counties in Virginia, and it looks like 91 of them have passed to be a, quote, Second Amendment sanctuary county. And they did that by having, and they have photos of all of these rallies, which you can scroll through if you want.
Yeah.
Thousands of people have shown up demanding that their county commissioners, like they have a form basically that I looked at it. I read the thing that they had all these county commissioners sign or pass or whatever the terminology is, to basically say that the county would not spend any money or resources on unconstitutional activities that the state may do. So this is the response on the rights side, right? And I have no doubt that this happened because, what the funny thing is the mainstream media didn't really cover this.
No, because that's not the narrative they want going out.
That's not their narrative, but this occurred. And these are the same people that are going to show up Monday. Plus, I'm telling you, it's huge. It's been talked about since like early December, this thing on Monday. People from out of state are coming. Yeah. To Virginia.
Well, just like we showed with the 3 characters.
That's the FBI's narrative of that.
Yeah.
But no. That,
a lot of other people.
Right. And what concerns me, Jeff, is that it's actually militia people who are going to come and say no. Try to say no, basically, is the bottom line. The last thing I wanted to show you, and then I'll stop interrupting you,
No, you're
is
not at all. But go ahead. Yeah.
all right. So I don't know who this guy is. It's Matt Bracken.
Mhm.
Okay, but multiple people have talked about him, and he has this article that I want to have you look at as well. And this article is basically describing the thing on Monday, and it
Oh yeah.
describes how these people are basically going to be in a shooting gallery. And it's worse now because this was written last week. Now they're showing like where they're putting up like cement 8 foot high barriers and stuff like that to really corral people in here. Reminds me of the whole Las Vegas
Oh, that's
people
exactly
in
what I
a
was thinking.
fishbowl. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? With no way to get out. Like
Yeah.
they'll be corralled in, and then no way to escape. This is why I'm not. Well, this isn't the only reason why I'm not going, but this is like the cherry on top of the. Yeah, I'm not going to this.
Yeah.
Um, no, thank you. But in spirit, I will be with these people. I mean,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
Well,
so
that's the
this guy.
thing.
You know, we could do a whole show on this one article because it's basically. I don't know this guy's background, but he's basically saying that this looks to him like it's a trap, like it's a setup trap,
Yeah.
like a bad setup trap.
Yeah, because everybody like the NWO is more than well aware of what they're up to and could be
Yeah,
directly involved in kind of funneling people here and there by placing operatives and setting the narrative and controlling the opposition potentially, like we said with the NRA. And you could have a lot of these people, with all the best interest in heart, coming seriously to make a stand. Again, we'll see how this plays out in the corporate media, because if and we knock on wood here, I don't want anything bad to happen. If anything
me
bad
neither.
happens, right? Anything bad happens, then you know how it's going to be played. But likely, even if nothing bad happens and it's just peaceful demonstrations, it'll just get a pittance of sort of an acknowledgement, if even from the corporate media, because it doesn't fit the narrative. Having a bunch of lawfully abiding gun owning citizens standing up for their rights is not what the type of story that Hollywood and Washington D.C. And CNN want to sell. They want you to
Right.
think that having guns
That
and
we're crazy.
yeah, people with guns are crazy. White people with guns is the worst possible thing. So
Yeah.
I showed that with, okay, so just going back here for a second, we'll go back to their article, but like
Yes.
things like this here, which is Salon, where they show these scary, kind of spooky looking white guys, Christopher Cantwell type characters that are well armed, and they look like they're up for trouble, sort of state of emergency, high tension in Virginia, as right-wing gun fanatics. So that's how they're described, gun fanatics. And it's like, it's not, so right-wing, okay, whatever. Gun fanatics. It's not, Second Amendment patriots. Language is everything, right? And again, these could just be actors playing roles, but probably are legit people, but they fit the narrative, sort of thing.
Oh, damn, I forgot to put it in my notes. There was a casting call.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Let me try and find it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Jeff.
No, that's good.
I saw it earlier today, and it didn't make it. I was on the other computer. Let me see what I can find. While we've also broke that. So the other thing I wanted to bring up is the timing. Okay, because I don't really believe in multiple coincidences simultaneously. So there's a lot going on, right? There's the Iran thing. All right. They're trying to gin up a war with Iran.
Yep.
Today, or like last night or whatever, they marched the impeachment garbage down the aisle to the Senate. Yep. So the impeachment's starting. So the impeachment will be in full swing during this.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you may not be aware of, or you may be just tangentially aware of, I'm not sure, but there's actually underlying things going on with the banking system that's that's been getting worse.
We have a perfect storm, basically.
It's a confluence of events, is what I would call it. It's this repo market is what's going on, which is like the interbank lending, daily overnight lending.
Yeah.
The banks have stopped lending each other the money, so the Federal Reserve has had to step in to the tune of like, multiple hundreds of billions of dollars since September, and it's increasing. It's not decreasing. So when they do that kind of thing, it's not like a normal thing. Like, oh, we just need to do this now. That's like an emergency measure, right? That's like if they didn't do that, then the banks would literally be in major trouble. So I was bringing that up.
Yeah.
Not really related to this, but I think it is. I think
well,
things,
TikTok, they're telling us the time is almost up, and
they're saying time's up. Yeah. Yep. So I just wanted to put that out there.
So like folks need to realize too, that this is really important, because if there is an incident, and okay, so anybody that might be listening that again may not be familiar with some of the work I've done recently on Jeff Censored, dealing with the nuclear power plant alert that was issued in Pickering, Ontario, which is right smack dab next to Toronto, and of course the Ukrainian plane that was shot down allegedly by Iranian. You have a narrative building there that could potentially blow into something massive, World War III, right? And we just had Stephen Harper, former Prime Minister of Canada, and he's basically a spokesman for Israel these days, or a cheerleader. He should put on pom-poms and all that, really, in a skirt. He just basically said, the former Prime Minister of Canada, that there needs to be a regime change in Iran. So pay attention, folks, to the big things that are happening, that are in full swing here in 2020. We could be having a bunch of events kind of just spill over into each other, and then, a sort of chaotic, out of order of chaos really is the motto of the New World Order, right? That's the whole thing. Chaos is a ladder which they'll use to take control. So if you do have some sort of event happen here, and on the screen, as you see, like this photo here that's in that article, which looks like there's a really important one here. You've got people with swastikas, basically, and you saw that with Max Egan, by the way, the other day. He bizarrely put a swastika on his hand for some reason and declared the earth flat. Now today apparently he's done about turn. Haven't had a chance to check that out, but that's not really important. But you've got the Nazi sort of symbol flag there, and the Confederate flag, of course, mixed in together, which for the average sort of Democrat retard, because you have to be a retard to be a Democrat to begin with, it's the same, right? They see the Confederate flag and they think that means you're a Nazi, you're a white supremacist, and then obviously they see the swastika. So what I said I'll just bring this up for a second here, because it's a good illustration. Here we'll just put tiki, torches, white, or Charlottesville.
Yeah, so I do photography, Jeff, and that looked like a staged photo shoot to me.
Of course, yeah. This is with the Hitler.
They all have the same everything on. They're all wearing polo shirts. Very, very. When it's uniform like that, when you have random people coming together, I don't know. That's just me.
That's media manipulation 101. I've been doing it for so many years now. This is how it's done. You are meant to react to this. The white shirt, you even got the inverted pyramid sort of symbol here, the Hitler comb over hairdo, the angry white people, making the Nazi salutes. Not that everyone that would take part in this is part of as an actor, but they can just strategically position people, and the rest of the people just fall in line, right? Because people do have a herdish sort of mentality. So this is what they're saying potentially could happen with, I mean, that's the rhetoric that's coming off the Salon and with New York Times and CNN and all that.
The governor himself has said it.
Yep, over and over again.
See the chat there. I posted the crisis actor thing.
Okay, cool. Let's take a look at that.
They
don't exist. Just to correct people that are listening here, there's no such thing as crisis actors. It's only in the minds.
And I'm just a guest on this show. I don't know what I'm talking about.
It's only in the minds of crazy conspiracy theorists. January 16, 2020, call out for crisis actors in Virginia's government's. Wow. Well, I don't know who this is. Suan McCollum here. It's the YouTube link though, right? Interesting. Let me just bring this up here.
Yes, that's what I found earlier.
33.
So that article is what I found earlier, but I couldn't find it just now. I'm sorry, Jeff.
So Virginia, no, it's okay because it's here. Virginia is for film lovers, so it's Film Hollywood. I don't know who runs it, but Amisville seeking actors for ongoing live role-playing project, current paid hostile environment awareness training, HEAT. Interesting acronym. The location is Amisville, Virginia. You're getting $250 a day plus $50 for travel. HEAT courses are designed to prepare NGO, non-government official staff organization part. Yeah, exactly. Staff for operating in challenging international environments through in-person simulations. Actors take on varying roles: terrorist, IED victims, hostage. They don't exist, Chris. Rescue team. There's no such thing as crisis actors. You're not allowed to put that on a title on YouTube, by the way. Throughout each workshop, this can be intense both physically and mentally, but also very rewarding.
Apparently, they put it on YouTube, though.
Yeah, this is dated here the 14th.
Yeah.
We're the 16th. So, coincidence, folks? Congrats to this Hard News TV here. I'll give them a sub just for that. But yeah, that could be something to pay attention to, folks. If something goes down, I'll say to the good folks out there is don't believe what you see on the television. You see people, you see fire trucks and ambulances, and then you see people with blood and stuff like that. It's what you see in movies too. It's not much different. It's very easy to do. So great find there, Chris. Thanks for bringing that up.
Sure.
Probably just increase the chances of this video being taken down by about 50%. But you know what? We'll take the chance.
Are you recording this? I hope.
No, yeah, it's going to be up live on Jeff C Live. So unless YouTube takes it down. So if you want, you can get a copy once it's finished uploading, sort of thing. And I'll try and download a copy myself. And anybody out there, you can download copies of this and share it. We're here to put out this information and try to hopefully help folks see what's going on. Now he's saying the scenario, the best case scenario here, and then he's got the bus brawl, the Waco twins, Peaks Redux, and
so see like the fishbowl that you were in with all these high rises for
like Las Vegas style.
Yes, it actually makes me nauseous, to be completely frank.
I would
This
be.
is like real. This is like getting real to me.
I am. Yeah, I would say to folks out there, I'm not telling you shouldn't go because I know why, and the reasons why all these people are going are very, very righteous, and I think we can all agree that most of these people are going with the best of intentions to preserve their constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
But something this highly watched and pumped up, there's a strong chance that there could be some happenings here. And again, all these things, like covering just recently or the last few years, the battles of Berkeley, the way that they built those things up, and like, granted, nobody was killed or anything like that, but they started Battle of Berkeley 1, Battle of Berkeley 2. By the time it was 3 and 4, it was like a meme, and it was like all the fake alternative media people, the Lauren Simonsons, the Luke Radowskis, all these people would show up with their armor on, the stickmen, right? And they were going to battle. They're going to go to war. And then all the Antifa people would show up with their armor on, right? And it's inevitable. It wasn't about people coming together and giving speeches. It was about the battle. That's what they would call it, the battle of this, the battle of that. So these things can easily, and again, all you need is a few rotten apples, right? Like when it comes to mobs, for instance, and this been shown a million times. So whether it be, people demonstrating against G8 summits and stuff like that in Rainbow Unicorn Land up here in Canada, government can stick people in the crowd to cause a ruckus, right? What they call agents provocateurs, right? That they can, dress up and, usually they're wearing blackface. You can't see them. They might have like ski goggles on or something like that. And they're the ones that will engage in the acts of violence. That's usually typically how it works. So they can weave in and out of the crowds and assume a form of anonymity, right? Because of the way that they're dressed up, and just because there's just so many people. But all it would take is a few of those thrown in there to really, one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch, sort of thing, right? Because then it plays on CNN, right? Look what happened. Look at the violence.
Well, and that's a normal thing, right? Like at the Charlottesville.
Yeah.
This is worse because now this is a Second Amendment rally. People will be armed. So if you have one person fire, then you have the police firing on them.
Yeah.
Then other people who are not controlled or whatever start firing back. And then like the chances for escalation and just going downhill quickly,
and then
I think is worse in a situation like this, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then how would that play out, right? On CNN and co.
Oh my God! How would it play out for everywhere? And
everywhere. Yeah, because then they would
Americans shooting Americans over a ginned up situation.
You would have Trump passing legislation or emergency orders to ban any sort of armed groups from gathering, sort of thing. You'd have all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
So that's another aspect is Trump, right? We haven't really talked about him. So he ran on, I'm going to be your Second Amendment advocate. The assault on the Second Amendment is over. This dude has said nothing about this, not a tweet. And if I'm wrong, please put it in the chat if I haven't seen it. But it has been silence from the guy who was supposedly help with this, right? So
these are mostly his constituents too, because
it is
people that voted him.
Check out the link I just sent as well. I know we're bouncing around, but there's so much to it. I wanted to at least get the highlights.
Yeah.
So there is multiple of the counties that have become the Second Amendment sanctuary counties that the sheriffs have actually formed the militia. So the actual militia is a real thing in the United States, where it's the sheriff in each county that has the authority to muster the militia, right? So and then every able-bodied citizen is supposed to, be part of this, basically. And for real, they have mustered the militia in at least 2 counties I'm aware of. Which is crazy. So now you're going to have the National Guard up against the sheriff and the people formed in a militia, possibly.
What could go wrong?
Is this real life?
Yeah, it is.
What?
Yeah.
I don't understand. This is
TikTok.
I really don't understand.
Yeah.
How it's gotten to this.
It's gotten to this because people just refuse to wake up to the mind control of the New World Order. Right. I mean, it should never have gotten to the point that it's gotten to. It's just like what's happening to children. You can do a Google search right now in your own neighborhood, and you'll probably find a drag queen that is reading stories to little 4-year-olds, because that's the new world order. It's taken over pretty much everywhere in every element. So we are witnessing this last gasp of armed Americans who are desperately trying to preserve their constitutional rights, but who could very well be leading themselves into a trap, as Admiral Akbar
It's
said.
a trap.
It's a trap, right?
Well, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about 2 weeks ago before it really ramped up, because I was thinking about going, and I figured you could suss out because I had a gut feeling then that it was going to be a trap. Now I know it's going to be a trap, and it's obviously I'm not going to go now. But
Well, you got to.
People are.
Well, that's it. But you can't stop it, and maybe it could backfire. It's possible their shenanigans could be exposed. It's possible. Maybe more people will wake up to it. It's possible. It's a difficult situation for even the NWO to necessarily totally control. But yeah, I mean, to me, it looks like the perfect storm, and it looks like the perfect sort of setting to have some sort of gun violence breakout, because wouldn't that be so perfect that all these people get together to defend their Second Amendment rights, and wouldn't you know it, a bunch of people get shot. And then, of course, you'd probably have Trump finally coming forth then and saying that we can't have this anymore. And Trump is, come on, Trump, if you think Trump is pro Second Amendment, I mean, he already
he's for the red flag laws.
Yeah, he's for the red flag. He also said the bump stocks and all these things, right? Like they play that game, right? Because that's the left-right game, and they want you to buy into that your president actually serves you as a people and not some foreign entity. But Trump is completely controlled by the NWO, and the NWO wants to take away your weapons. That's all. It's that simple. Well, they want a lot more than that, but they want to take away your weapons, because guess what? Something big is likely to happen. And I mean, that would make sense. Of course, we could talk about anti-vaxxers and the vaccination, sort of mandatory vaccination agenda that is likely to be also is already totally unfolding. We could have situations in the near future where we have some sort of pandemic and the government forcing people to get vaccinated. There's a lot of different scenarios coming forth. I mentioned the possibility of some sort of false flag on a nuclear power plant, based on a lot of the coding in the movies, and of course recently with the situation in Pickering. There's a lot of different scenarios that could possibly be in the cards, but in the cards, when I say in the cards, I mean literally in the cards, those Illuminati cards, which seem to show everything that comes. But we could be seeing a perfect storm sort of come forth here in 2020, where we have World War III on the brink here. With Iran, we have world leaders calling for regime change there. The massive gun grab going on right across the United States, Virginia now, all this massive, demonstrations plan. It's a very tense situation. I mean, and again, to a certain extent, if you just look at the corporate media headlines here, right? I'll just put Virginia in here just to show you the latest here. A state of emergency, right? It's the first thing you see. That's what you're meant to see. So Virginia governor declares state of emergency ahead of, New York Times, Forbes, The Guardian. It's all Disney. It's all the same. It's the New World Order. But, you see the rhetoric, pay attention to the language. This is being pumped by the corporate media as some sort of storm that's brewing, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. When is this all taking place? Is it
Monday? Could you go back to that vdcl.org? You were on it earlier. That was the one with the photos and stuff. It was like 3 back, maybe.
This one here?
Nope.
This one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now go up. I made you skip over it, but so now there's
January 20th.
Yes. It's VDCL lobby day.
Lobby day. That's an interesting.
So go down just a little bit. Yeah. So I've watched the videos of the main guy in charge has like videos talking and stuff, and he's trying to. Well, I don't know what he's trying to do, but he's projecting that he's trying to get people to not bring guns and that this is going to be very peaceful. And apparently this happens every year. Is the legislature is out on, because this is Martin Luther King Day, right? This is a federal.
Oh, interesting.
This
So
is
the
a
20th
federal
is Martin Luther.
Yes,
Wow.
sir. So this is a federal holiday, right? So everyone's off work. And they have this lobby day every year, supposedly, where people lobby the legislature because it's out of session for the day. So apparently more of these rallies are planned in the future if they pass this kind of stuff, because apparently if they pass the laws, then it won't go into effect for some amount of time. So they might do more in the interim.
Yeah.
To say, no, we're not going to abide by these laws. Now you just pass these unconstitutional pieces of toilet paper. Yeah.
Well, I would urge people not to be armed. I think you play into what they want to paint you as. So if you show up unarmed, even though I know why people would choose to bear arms, but
or at least don't bring a rifle.
What's that?
Or at least don't bring a rifle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't. I would say don't. I would honestly, I wouldn't go.
I would go at all.
I would go. I mean, maybe to a smaller one. I mean, how many rallies are there? It's not just one place. Is there several? Is every county having their own little one, or is it all?
That's already occurred. That's already occurred, Jeff. So those all happened in December. Those were all those photos down below. That's how they got 90 plus of the counties to become sanctuary counties for the Second Amendment.
Okay.
But this emergency declaration by the governor, I think it was earlier today or yesterday, makes it so the whole area becomes a gun-free zone. So now they're like, before, if you brought a handgun and you just didn't go to the building, you could have been in that grassy area around the Capitol. It was legal, right? Totally legal. They made it so it's not now. So now they're trying to disarm everyone and put them in this little box.
I don't even know. To this too, this Eventbrite, because this is what they're saying you have to sign up through. Here, where was it? Eventbrite, Brightwood, right? The bright often being the Lucifer sort of symbolism that they use. So this organization here could be doxing everyone here. I'll just check out their website here. Eventbrite. Interesting. Here. This is at least in Canada. Eventbrite here. Pay attention to who runs these websites, because that's where they're asking you to sign up here through this. Sign up through Eventbrite. Again, one thing you all people should be very concerned about is the destruction of privacy and the facial recognition, and understand that a lot of you that would attend these events are going to be identified. There's a strong chance that they would have facial recognition cameras and stuff like this. Just like I talked about the Adam Kokesh thing that was, where they got all these people to sign up to go for an armed march, right? Into Washington, D.C., which from the moment it was conceived was a terrible idea. And yet like 1,500 or 2,000 people signed up for it, because of course they're just good patriots. They just think, well, I'm going to do this. But if you don't know who runs these organizations, you should think twice. That's for the chartering of buses. So that's not for everything. That's just for people that are showing up that way. Anyways, that's a minor little thing, but it's something to keep in mind. Also, this whole crisis actor thing that is just here at this particular time, that's just nuts. Where have we seen this story before? Way too many times.
Not on your YouTube channel at all.
Yeah, well, not any that are still up, that's for sure. Then we've got the latest dealing with the governor himself, who of course has been photographed as blackface, and this guy is a really checkered history, a really shady character himself. Obviously, right, an NWO puppet carrying out their thing. So yeah, I'm gonna close these windows now because I don't need them open.
Yep.
But all these different legislation that's being passed. I put this in YouTube here for a search, Virginia gun. You get all the corporate media, obviously. I'll just put Virginia gun control here. You see this? Yeah, dealing with the just to get an idea of how YouTube at least is coming forth with this. Northam bans guns from VA Capitol grounds ahead of large. So we didn't mention that, but he's apparently banned the guns.
That's part of the emergency declaration. That's what I was saying.
Okay. Where will Virginia land on gun control in their next election? The Washington Post. And one of the videos I just saw this is the one here. What does the rise of homemade guns mean for gun laws? We made one to find out, New York Times. I said, again, the character that they use looked like a prototypical sort of white supremacist, right? Albeit of the beta nature, but with the shaved head, and he's white and he's dressed in black. And then they got the Roanoke here County Joint Second Amendment sanctuaries. That's interesting because they had the WNB7. They probably had a lot of those characters coming forth. Typically,
that's amazing that they got them to do it, because that's one of the Roanoke, Virginia. That's a highly populated area. So they like it was mostly the rural, but that's interesting. I didn't know that. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're not at all. Absolutely not. And then you've got Biden here. Yeah. New California gun laws coming in New Year as mass killings soar, and it looks like they've got people out protesting. So yeah, a lot to pay attention to. U.S. police sheriff willing to go to jail in protest of new gun control. And yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of good people, a lot of good law-abiding American, whether they be the sheriffs themselves. I've seen some like what you sent me there before. Maybe we should play that for folks as a thing of positivity here. You sent me, yeah.
I tweeted it or something.
You tweeted it here, and I think I retweeted it here. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so yeah, let's play this here. It's a pretty cool. So
it's a sheriff.
I'm going to turn this up here. Sheriff here, I will not enforce any unconstitutional law. Now, everyone should be inspired. All the sheriffs in Virginia should listen to this guy, because he's just speaking the most common sense imaginable, which is, I am just not going to break the American Constitution by any shape or form, sort of thing. So here we go. I'm going to put up my volume here. Listen in.
Caster, as you can see, I'm here, and I just want to personally...
Could you pull that mic up a little bit?
Is that better? Okay. I just want to personally and publicly go on record supporting this resolution before us this evening. Guys, it's simple, like a lot of them have said. The Constitution needs no explanation. It's been enforced for several hundred years now. It's easy to understand. It says what it means and means what it says. And the last time I read the Declaration of Independence, it specifically reminds all of us that we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, which means God-given. Among these, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that governments were instituted among men specifically to secure our God-given rights. And it says when government becomes destructive to these ends, meaning when they go above and beyond trying to secure our liberties and trying to take them, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish that government, either by voting or ultimately, God forbid, to use our Second Amendment rights to protect ourselves from tyranny. And I'm just asking all of y'all to unanimously join our sister counties of Wilkes, Surrey, Stokes, Lincoln, and Cherokee and get on board with this thing and publicly demonstrate to us that you're willing to uphold and honor the same oath I took when I put my hand on God's word and held my other hand up to him and swore that I'd give my life to defend that Constitution And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but regardless of what y'all do or don't do, I'm not going to enforce an unconstitutional law. I'm going to protect it.
All right. Yeah, it's a pretty cool speech. Yeah, people could be skeptical and all, but nonetheless, what he says is true, and this is what everyone should, in my opinion, right? Everyone should follow. It's not that you should go and protest and you should be at these events or whatever, but everyone should be calling for. They should be going to their local sheriff saying, "Are you going to defend?" And wherever you are, whatever state you're in, are you going to defend our Second Amendment rights? Are you going to do this? Because we need to know. Because when the SHIT hits the fan, right? What they have depicted over and over again, just the total breakdown of society, martial law, whatever, just chaos in the streets, because it seems like we are heading towards really chaotic times. It's going to be up to the local, your local sheriff and stuff like that, your local police force. This is why people will push the whole narrative of United Nations soldiers being brought in to enforce this gun grab, because most people know, like, even, we'll put the Freemasonic thing aside. We'll just say that most soldiers, American soldiers, are Americans. They have families, friends. They're part of communities. They are not going to fire on Americans, and unless it's the most extreme situation, and even then they'll probably think twice. So this is where the New World Order has an obstacle to overcome. Where in the future, what we'll see probably 10, 15 years down the road is the RoboCops, except they won't even be cyborgs for the most part. They'll just be machines. That's what's to come in the future. That's a whole nother kettle of fish that we won't even begin to discuss tonight. But for now, we have to at least make sure that our local representatives, I'm saying this for the good folks in the United States, and especially the good folks in Virginia, that you go and you correspond directly with your local law officials and you ask them to uphold your constitutional rights. That's what they, when they swear an oath, that's what they swear to. They don't swear to some banksters in Israel or whatever, right? I mean, they're not swearing to the British royalty or something, right? They're swearing to the Constitution of the United States. So this is what is most adamant, is that, because that's the biggest hurdle right now. When you ask me, if you say what's the biggest thing stopping the New World Order from taking over humanity, I'd say it's the American Constitution. It's the last big hurdle, because most of the other countries have been totally detoothed. Whether it be Australia, Norway, whether it be, aforementioned UK, Scotland, even places like France. Most of these places, they've already got in. They've had their events, and then they've taken away most of the guns, and they've programmed the people into, it's much better that the government has all the weapons and you have none, and don't worry, you'll be safe sort of mentality. America's and Canada are two last places really left in the West where you have significant percentage of the population that still have weapons, still have guns. And this is why they are working so hard to change that. And it's been a huge part of my career since, I've been on since early 2012 doing this type of work. And I can't even tell you how much I've covered this gun grab, whether it be through all those quote unquote events that are as fishy as a $3 bill, events that YouTube and Facebook and other social media giants will not allow you to even mention, right? You can't even put them in the title. And as I mentioned before, things like crisis actors don't exist according to YouTube and Facebook and all that. So it's very important for people to realize that this is a major, major objective of this NWO, and they will, by hook or by crook, I mean, that's their thinking. They have to do this. So they have to provide like the Hegelian dialectic, right? Create the problem, and then people have the reaction, and then they bring in the solution. That's how it works. And it's over and over again, whether it be 9/11 or it be the events you're not allowed to talk about. This is how they function. So we need be very cognizant of their methods, and that's why it's very good, Chris, that you brought up all the potential, shenanigans that could happen with a massive armed gathering, or just having massive amounts of people, a la sort of Las Vegas, another event that's fishy as a $3 bill. So, these things are dangerous. I think at this point in time, myself, I'm going to avoid public gatherings like the bubonic plague. Because, I just
even locally, it's crazy. So it's like ground zero in a small way where I'm at. They've had back and forth with the monuments down here. Getting rid of Civil War monuments. I've gone to some of that to just stream it on what is that thing called? The Twitter streaming. I forget what it is. Anyway.
What's it called? I know what you're talking about.
I'm drawing a blank. But it's been a little ginned up here too, I think, because all the people that really did the monument stuff came from out of town and no one knew them.
Oh yeah,
but then they got the local people to
it's Periscope, by the way. Thanks to people in the chat.
Thank you.
The same thing here. Just in case you're wondering, the exact same thing. We had the exact same narratives with statues of white privileged people in the past who were, of course, racist and did nasty things allegedly to indigenous people and black people and stuff like that. Exact same narrative coming out. I mean, it's uncanny. So anybody that might be wondering, hey, why is a Canucker, concerned about this stuff? It's the same. It's happening all around the world. It's happening here in Canada. Whatever happens here, it's just like, for instance, the plane crash, right? It might as well have been 63 Americans on the plane sort of thing, because it's the same effect.
Canada and the United States are practically the same.
Yeah. So we have a massive gun grab happening here, and we have the same type of orchestrations. We have the monument protest and people tearing down the monuments. We have the Greta Thunberg marches here in Montreal, over 500,000 kids taking to the Extinction Rebellion. It's a one world, right? And that's the last obstacle to the one world, is really constitutional United States, and this is the hill that people will likely have to draw a line in the sand at a bare minimum, and make their stand, because this is all going according to plan. So I'm going to hope that nothing goes down, obviously, right? And I'm going to close up now. So Chris, is there anything else you want to talk about before we close up the show?
The only other thing I'd add that I forgot to mention, this has been hyped like big time by a lot of YouTube channels that you may not be subscribed to, Jeff. And what's interesting to me is also the timing with SHOT Show. So SHOT Show is the yearly. It's like the auto show for guns. So that's where all of the new firearms are displayed for the yearly, this is the new models for 2020. So all of these channels that people subscribe to and listen to and trust, all these people are like, y'all should go to this, but we're not, because we're going to be at SHOT Show.
Yeah, interesting.
And it's like, well, that's really convenient. I mean, I don't know if that's just coincidence or what, but these people that you would normally see would go to something like this are not going to. They want us to go, the normal people.
Yeah, that's very suspect. I would never do that.
It does to me too, yeah. So, well, Jeff, I just wanted to thank you for having me on too. I really appreciate your just your knowledge base and your eye to suss this stuff out. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on and offering all this information. That's very important to the whole thing.
Sure.
And yeah, like Chris, I put a link. I know you're not a YouTube guy, but I put your Steemit link in the description. So
Yep, thank you.
folks want to see Chris. He does a lot of gardening.
Gardening and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool stuff. So definitely check him out. And yeah, thanks everyone. And if you can, yeah, come and support the show. Come, my Patreon is the way to do it. We're not allowed to monetize anything, so you can just follow the link in the description and sign up for my Patreon for as little as $2 a month. It really helps me a lot. Gives me more time to be able to host shows like this. And I want to give a big shout out and thanks to everyone in the chat. I took a few looks. It looks like some really good discussions going on. Thanks to Tears for doing the moderating. Really appreciate it. And yeah, folks, we'll see you. I mean, tomorrow's Friday, so I'll probably be hosting Friday for fun. FFF there on Jeff Censored, unless I get censored, of course. So I'll let you know, and that'll probably be around 8 p.m. tomorrow on Jeff Censored. So yeah, make sure you're subbed, of course, too. Make sure you're subbed to this channel, Jeff C Live, because it's the only place where I can really do group shows, because YouTube took away the Hangouts and all that. So anyways, with that being said, thank you all so much for joining the show tonight. Make sure to give us a thumbs up, and yeah, we'll see you guys all in the next one. Have a good night, folks.